Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today in this panel. We are very glad to be here with Ana Quintera and Ilya Rivia to discuss one of the main challenges that the industry is still facing today, which is financial inclusion for women. So welcome to the session, Innovative Approaches to Financing Female Businesses. So let's start this conversation recognizing the significant strides that have been made in terms of gender equality in recent years. Our efforts have important outcomes. However, as we all know, there are still gaps and challenges that need to be addressed. Let me mention a few of them before we start this conversation so we set the context for the panel. According to the recently released World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report, it will take 134 years to achieve full gender parity, which means 5 generations after the target set by the SDGs for 2030. In terms of gender gaps, the health and survival gap are the most close at 96%, followed by education at 94%, both just fundamental. However, we still see a huge gap of 22% in women's political engagement and in participation and economic empowerment at 60%. According to the World Bank, reducing the gender gap and employment could increase per capita GDP growth by an average of nearly 20% across all countries over the long term. So just some data for us to keep having this as a priority topic and to introduce our conversation today. So before we start, I would also like to share with the audience today what do we want to discuss today. So not only we want to learn more about the great experience from Ana and Ilya, but we also want to share with all of you what do we mean when we say that we are trying to build and we are trying to be gender intentional organizations. So not only the data that I just shared is important, but also when we talk about financial inclusion in particular, as we all know, we are still seeing huge gaps, significantly big gaps in financial inclusion. So not only the numbers that you're seeing in the screen in terms of ownership of savings accounts, or 9% in terms of the gap of ownership of credit and debit cards, 11% in gender gap in access to credit. But in general, in all regions, we're still seeing a gap that still needs to be closed. We obviously recognize all the efforts that regulation and private sector and multilaterals, etc., are doing, but we still are facing an important challenge in front of us. But let's talk about a little bit about from Axion's experience, why do we think this is still happening? So Axion is a very active leader in financial inclusion. We work with fintechs and financial institutions, traditional institutions, digital platforms, and in general, with our experience, these are some of the reasons why we still see that we need to work more on trying to close the gap. So just having in mind that there are nearly 1 billion women remained outside the normal financial system. Why this is happening? So according to our research and conversations with our different partners, one of the main things that keep financial institutions, financial services providers away from closing the gap is data. So it's not obviously that institutions are not gathering data, but it's not necessarily doing it in a sex disaggregated way. And so it is not enough. What we're seeing is it is not enough to have a separation between gender, like how many women we're serving, how many men we're serving, but also what are the different nuances, what are the details of the data, what the data is telling us when we work closely on segmenting the data. So institutions are good at collecting data, but not necessarily processing or using the data that they are doing for both marketing strategies, for data risk, or management in general. Another important reason that we see is that there are not necessarily good incentives for institutions. Again, like any kind of institution, either because There is no a motivation with regulation or motivations from their investors, motivations from other stakeholders that they're working with, as they see that the business is doing okay. So there's no really a need to try to learn what could be potential the business case to serve more women or be more intentional. And third, as we all know, there are many other competitive priorities, right? So not only the other the priorities that we are following with climate, for example, but also the internal priorities that institutions have. So it's not an easy challenge again, but we do believe that there are ways to do that. Not only because there is a business case to serve more women, and here's like another piece of information, data that we should know, but like if we as an industry work together on trying to include more women, we might have 2 trillion, for example, in new deposits annually, or we can have 1.7 trillion in serving women with credit, just to give some examples. So the business case is there. There is intention in many of the financial services providers, but those were some of the reasons that we were able to identify for the challenges that institutions still see. What in Acción, and maybe again, just to give a framework for the conversation today, in Acción, we believe that it is obviously important to be intentional when we're serving the clients, but we also believe that it's important to have a more coherent approach. And by that, we made that it is important to start working with a cultural change, a mindset change internally, and not only to go after that big and top market for women, but also to be able to identify what are the opportunities that institutions have inside to change the processes, to change the way in which we recruit people, to change the way in which we set strategies, for example. So when we work with partners, we use our Women Transformative Model, which is basically a framework that helps us to understand and to help our partners to understand where they are in the journey from become a very transformative, gender transformative organization. So we identify with them whether they are neutral, where they are doing, depending on what they are doing, if they are intentional, or if they are really transformative. And I don't want to go into the details of this, but just again to share the framework and to also discuss with my panelists here where they are in the journey, right? And so when we talk about a transformative journey, we touch on topics like, where is my strategy? Do I have a gender strategy? What is the value offering? How did we design that value offering? How we are implementing that offer? How are my internal procedures? In general, and how are we measuring how we are impacting, and how we are measuring such impact. And so, as you know, when we are trying to become transformative organizations, we also need to start not only with the strategy that we have, go through organizational change and talent, but also in the business-oriented activities, see, what are the products that we are offering, how are we offering those projects, how are we assessing risk, not only for credit, but in general, how are we managing the data that we have, how we are using it, and what kind of activities are we doing, initiatives do we have in place to actually build the capacities of those women that we are trying to serve. The framework is very comprehensive, and I don't expect to get into the detail. But so the journey is not short. And so that's why I feel very honored to be here with Ilya and Anna, who are going to share their experience and particularly sharing 2 particular initiatives that they have in their institutions. And maybe we can then understand, like what it takes to be intentional, what it takes to be transformative, and what have been the challenges that they have faced so far. So I'll stop sharing my screen. Then we can move to have our conversation. So Anna and Ilya, welcome again to this panel. If you don't mind, let me introduce yourself to the audience. So first, Anna, Ana Cantera has been the CEO of Alter Modus in Montenegro since 2015. She started her career at Alter Modus in 2000 as a finance manager and later became the director of finance and legal affairs. With many years of experience in microfinance and formal education in law and financial management, she contributed to the development of Alter Modus in areas of process management, organizational structure improvement, business planning, and financial modeling. So, Anna, very glad to have you here. Ilya Revia, he's the CEO of MFO Crystal. He's an accomplished executive with extensive experience leading large-scale transformation and change management initiatives in banking and IT sectors. After joining Crystal and in the second half of 2019, he has been leading the company's strategic vision, growth, and transformation. Ilya is a certified project management professional with graduate degrees in project management from George Washington University and in IT and business innovation from Johns Hopkins University in Sweden. So Ilya, again, welcome. And yeah, let's start this conversation. So, well, after we saw the framework, and I'm sure that this has been something that you have discussed internally, I want just to ask you if you could please share with us reflection on where you are in this journey and what have been the main challenges that you have faced in your respective organizations to become gender intentional.
Thank you, Lisa and MFC, for this opportunity to share experience of Alter Modus regarding the women in business and how we actually deal with that. Let's say that here in Alter Modus, the company culture is pretty much different compared to the overall society, and that women are here very respectful from the company in the means that always is appreciate the women's way of thinking, way of communication, their commitment to work as well as businesses of our clients, but also their important spheres of life and needs to be satisfied. So from the beginning, from the establishment of Alter Modus, we actually feel that there is some difference between how women are treated in a company as employees and clients compared to something which is in the society. And that is maybe the main motivation why we start, let's say in 2004, I believe, with some programs and projects for women in business. And that was very unique in that period in Montenegro, because that, let's say, a question regarding equality of within the genders in general and an empowerment of women was not on the agenda of any institution in the country or any NGO dealing with those questions. But we realized that we need to support financially entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, in order to be, let's say, from the one side economically independent, and that could influence their life and lifestyle and do some changes in overall society. So we started with some projects in 2004. And I think that we had a very good foundation within the company, because from the beginning, the equality between the employees in number and positions were pretty much let's say, same like is the balance in overall society. You know, there is pretty much equal, even in Montenegro, bigger number of inhabitants women compared to men. And the situation in public affairs, in let's say, general in companies, generally within the entrepreneurs, is pretty much different. And we realized that we can do something to change that. And since we are a financial institution, our first, let's say, step was to offer financial support to women entrepreneurs. After that, we actually start working on some other benefits and connecting and networking with the other institutions. But generally, if that is not in the agenda of the, let's say, government and ministries, you cannot do too much regarding the other important fields to empower women regarding the overall equality. Because I think that the main challenge in the end is the culture. And it's not easy to change the culture. So you can do that by, let's say, to have a good assessment where we are now and to set very reasonable goals where you want to be in some coming period. Not what is the best. Sometimes something what is the best and what is very logical in reality doesn't work. So you need to be very realistic, because logic and realistic are not equal in the end. So that's something what I want to share with you. And I think it's always good if you have some support from, in our case, from abroad, with, let's say, programs based on some experiences from the countries which passed that let's say, journey earlier, and have some lessons learned, not to make some mistakes which are made on some other places. It's not needed to make some mistakes. That's something for the introduction that I can share with you. So it's very important to be aware in which culture you are working, what is the society, what are the differences between your company and overall society, and to adjust actually all your activities and programs to the society, because if you want to be successful in your attentions, and also to be aware what is the situation within the company, how are employees regarding some questions, especially gender equality, what is their opinion, because they are coming from that society. So
absolutely, Anna. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that. And yeah, great point, and good to know that your motivation started with trying to change the culture, which is not an easy task. And Ilya, just to you, what was the initial motivation and that you have at Crystal to start this journey?
Thank you, Lisa, to you and to MFC for hosting me and giving an ability to talk about Crystal's innovative experience, I would say. So a couple of words maybe of the introduction itself. For those who do not have exposure to Crystal, we are largest non-banking financial institution in the country, and we've been on the market for 25 years now. Now, as you have mentioned, traditionally, financial inclusion of women has been, let's say, a pain point for many financial institutions, banks included. And the statistics, I typically always say that statistics show it all, right? So, for example, in our case, at this stage, we have 57% of our clients are women, 57%. And we know, based on also the results of the portfolio, that they're much better payers. However, over the years, their exposures have not been equal to the exposure that traditionally men clients take. So 57% women clients, however, their entire portfolio is 47%. When we have been working on this during multiple years before, trying to understand the reasons. There are multiple reasons, as in any society, sometimes cultural, sometimes socioeconomical or legal, whether that's a lack of confidence in starting up a new business or expanding on business. Sometimes, let's say, a bias towards less risk-taking as well, and sometimes just societal norms, especially in the regions, which we all understand is a different case compared to the larger cities when there was more emancipation. So traditionally, Crystal has been very much supportive in this over the past couple of decades by initiating special women entrepreneurship support programs, consulting, teaching, training, trying to, as well, to deliver the knowledge which we always have felt is one of the missing points to actually, grow the business for the small and micro women entrepreneurs. Now, a couple of years back, we have actually already started working with ADB on a special program, which was related to the women, let's say, well, gender bond, in this case, as it is called. However, the main difference here was that it was not just a regular public bond, but a certified gender bond, which would actually be certified by an independent rating agency, and all the proceeds would go to the women clients or women-led MSMEs, women-owned MSMEs. So that was the idea, that in partnership with a major DFI, such as Asian Development Bank, trying to deliver more value to the women customers.
Amazing. Congratulations for that. And I'm sure that we are going to talk more about that, obviously, today. But just before getting into more detail in each of your initiatives, just maybe very short answers on like, what do you think have been the main challenge for you to get to where you are in the journey? Because like clearly both of your organizations are leaders in gender in your countries. So I just want to hear like what has been the main challenge quickly, and maybe we can touch again on that at the end today. Thanks.
Well, generally, Montenegro is the smallest country in the Western Balkan with 624,000 inhabitants. So the market is very small. And to be specialized in any part of the market, it's very tricky for the business, running the business. So you need somehow to, let's say, balance between something which is your intention to do your mission within the very, very vulnerable categories of the clients. From the other side, you need to build a company. So you need somehow to balance between the saving the company to be stable, to be on a long run, and from other side to be very specialized for some segments of the market. Since we are talking about a very small market, that's the issue. The other issue is, as I earlier said, the culture of the country, very traditional culture of the country with very traditional rules of the men and the women within the family, as well in the businesses, and from the other side in public life. So those without any, let's say, public intention to support with non-financial benefits women in business, it's very tricky to put on the agenda of the company that is your way, and that you are, let's say, in transformation phase, as you presented during your presentation. So you need to be a part, let's say, of a bigger picture, and to find stakeholders within the society who are also supporting those activities and let's say helping women in business from the different ways, because not only economically and financially independence is important, mental independence, emotional independence of the women is also important for let's say empower gender equality in one society. So when you are focused only on one segment, then you can be aware that there are also other important which are not in your focus, but you need to connect with some other stakeholders in order to, you need all clips to let's say step up, not only one. That's the main challenge, to find stakeholders within the small society, very traditional. Let's say that in Montenegro, just 22% of overall companies are owned or managed by the women of overall companies. And from the other side, in Alter Modus, we proved that half of the portfolio could be entrepreneurs in women in business. So if we are comparing one institution with overall economics, then it's we prove that there is a possibility. What is the probability? We will see. We are on that run, but actually it's needed to be connected more stakeholders than financial institutions. We are not the only one in Montenegro. Also NLB Bank finance women in business, and their conclusions are let's say like 2 years old, something that we concluded like 10 or 15 years ago, that women clients are very reliable, very flexible, very adjustable to changes and so on. Those are their, let's say, competencies, and which are founded by the other financial institutions recently. And I'm not sure about conclusions of other institutions, what they found out. So it's important that all society going in the same direction, and really appreciate that on an agenda, not formally, but in essence.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe Ilya, if I can just like a very, very short answer so we can move on to the other topic.
Sure. So I would say, I mean, challenges are very much similar to what Anna has mentioned. Obviously, building the awareness across the population, across the market. We've had less of a trouble internally because we've always been focused, and apart from obviously the profitability goals, which we always have had, we also had social goals, and one of them is SDG number 5, which is gender empowerment. So that's traditionally what the company has been always focusing, and that has always helped, you know, at the very top level, both at the board, at the management team, to actually drive that initiative forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you for that. Very, very important, and yes, common challenges that we have also seen in other regions. So it's not only in your countries, but yeah. So Ilya, let's talk about the gender bonds at Crystal. Why did you decide to pursue this fundraising tool, and how does it align with your overall strategy around gender inclusion?
Sure. So in terms of why, well, the major reason was obviously the part of fulfilling the social mission as well, together with raising enough senior funding. Now, in this case, we didn't have a challenge of raising senior funding alone, because typically we are more than well funded in terms of the typical loans from IFIs, DFIs, etc. But the entire approach was very innovative. So when we had this discussion with Asian Development Bank, in particular, we felt that maybe that's actually something that is more interesting, you know, to us and to the market. We wanted to be pioneers on the market as well. This was really the first regional transaction, actually, and even one of the first ones for the ADB as well, in terms of pushing something which is certified gender bond on the market. We also participated, and this is another good thing, when you do programs like these, which are more challenging than regular senior bond, there are many programs which support you. So we participated in EBRD sponsored capital market support program, and we won that program as you know, with that bond. So basically, the whole placement cost was actually funded by the EBRD, which is another positive thing, because bonds is not a cheap thing, as we all aware. That requires not just certification, but also placement agent, the brokerage. Well, you have to go through quite a lot of, I would say, additional steps compared to the regular lending. So that was, you know, the idea, as well as trying to test out our social framework, which was actually evaluated by an independent agency as a transformative, that our loans given to women entrepreneurs really change. They really improve their conditions in terms of the business, in terms of sometimes their living conditions, the society conditions in some small village. And that was also evaluated as a transformative, which was a huge achievement in our case. Now, in terms of the project, so it itself has taken us roughly 7 months, actually, from the start of the negotiations to the placement. So it's not such a short period of time. You need to invest some time in this, prepare all the reporting, disclosures. However, in the end, it really plays out well.
Okay. Yeah, well, no, thank you, and congratulations for that, and especially for being a leader on doing such innovative approach for fundraising. And well, you already explained to us a bit of the journey to do this, but do you think that this is an instrument that others like Crystal will follow? in the country or in the region? How do you see that happening in the near future?
Certainly, yes. We do see more and more interest, actually, not just from one DFI actually in the market, but some others have been approaching us after they've heard about the successful placement, asking to do similar programs. So we are considering, next programs once that bond is repaid. And overall, that is also part of the whole strategy of the company, that we do more targeted placements, we take more targeted funding, which is then utilized to address specific groups, whether this is women or sometimes we also work on one program on the forcibly displaced people from Ukraine, which will also be targeted, or actually any other forcibly displaced people, because we do see that the world is changing and let's say there are more and more refugees across the region. So yes, there's more interest.
Awesome. So no, I'm glad to know that, because that is precisely one of the indicators to become a transformative organization, right? So not only doing the initiative, but being able to influence others to follow your path. And so I hope to see that more happening. Thank you for sharing all this experience, Ilya. And Anna, back to you. Let's go deeper into the Women in Business label in Montenegro. Why did you decide to create this label, and how does it connect with Altermodo's overall gender strategy?
Well, let's say that that idea fits perfectly with our strategy, because our idea, our vision is to be a financer of the first choice of micro and family businesses in Montenegro. And if the women represent half of the overall population, if the women represent 55% of employees in Altermodus, they're like 45% in managerial structures as well as in executive management. I think that we have a very good foundation to step up, not only with financial support, but to make interaction with the other institutions. And this idea regarding the women mark, or ženski žig in our language, means that companies which are owned and also led by the women, recognized and have some benefits, not only financial benefits secured from the financial institutions, but also non-financial benefits in terms of education, in terms of trainings, in terms of support, how to run their businesses and how to develop their businesses. And that is something which is, let's say, common interest of women in business, of financial institutions, and all other stakeholders. This idea was very attractive to us as a financial institution, because we don't need to check if the company has a mark as a women in business company. In that case, we are not checking, is it all really owned by the woman? Is it really managed by the women from that company? That's already checked, and we have the register. And that idea is, let's say, owner of that program is Council for Competitiveness, and it's supported by EBRD and by UK Embassy here in Montenegro, and VIA Communication is implementing partner. So somehow there is interaction within the communication agencies, public agencies, foreign agencies, which are dealing with the same, and also financial institutions, which are dealing with the let's say, topic of gender equality, and so how we created the team of people who are working on interests of women in business. And from the other side, there are very clear criteria. I'm not sure about the name. It's something like EVA, EVA 34, MEST EVA 34 criteria, which are very clear, and you can check as an entrepreneur or MSc, are you fitting in criteria for women business? With that mark, you have some, let's say, benefits which are secured by the agreements signed between the financial institutions, educational institutions, training institutions, and so on, with the Council for Competitiveness. And in that case, women can apply for benefits they recognize they need. From the other side, we have internal research within the Alta modus to recognize what are the needs of our clients, financial needs, what are the most important obstacles they are facing with in a daily work, and regarding their development of their businesses and creating the strategy. And we are trying to adjust our offer to their needs. So with support of EBRD through the program Women in Business, we actually created the program, and that program actually saved many of our clients and their businesses during the COVID period, because we recognize here in Montenegro that collaterals are the most important issues that women in business facing with, because usually they don't have the, let's say, premises on their names or some property which is valuable. And those programs who gives us opportunity to, let's say, only took soft collaterals or to lend without the collaterals from the one side, and to reduce interest rate for those clients. That is something what women in business financially really need. From the other side, their needs are how to run their businesses, how to organize their businesses, how to develop organizational structure regarding the marketing, regarding the sales channels. So many educational needs, many skills they need, and also they need, let's say, some mental support, because usually they are not supported by their families, especially to start the businesses. If they start by their own and develop something, then they are supported because they are bringing the income to the family. But generally, when they are very young, generally young people in Montenegro, but especially young women in Montenegro, they are not supported mentally by families to go into entrepreneurship. They are usually advised to find some job in public administration, in schools, and to have some income and go be a mom in a family, and which is also important in their lives. But I think that mental support is very important, and that is the field which is, let's say, less covered here in Montenegro. And what I also recognized, there is a lot of, let's say, tools now, generally, that you can find, not to be educated or to be specialized in some field of businesses. You have artificial intelligence tools and so on, but emotional intelligence and social intelligence is also very important. And that is something which is provided here in Montenegro maybe by only one company. And I think that that's the lack generally in Montenegro, how to support not only women in business, but generally all entrepreneurs regarding the social intelligence, networking, sharing experiences, communication with their customers, with their vendors. That's something which is a very interesting field for development here.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I totally agree. And we also work with several partners that are not only focused on financial services, but they also agree that it is important to offer non-financial services, right? Not only to women, as you said, but like in general to micro entrepreneurs, but especially to women, for all the
Yes,
reasons
and
that you have described.
if it is not possible to be offered by the financial institution, which is natural, we are not dealing with that, to find the best solutions in the market, who can offer that, and have some, let's say, cooperation agreements with some other institutions to, let's say, offer full package to the client. For the client, is not important who is offering, it's important to find on one place what's the need of the client.
No, absolutely. No, thank you, Anna, and congratulations on the program. I know that there are others in other regions that are similar, but not as complete as the one that you are sharing with us.
Yes, because I think it's important when you are connecting public authority and when you're connecting private sector from financial services and other services. That's important somehow to connect and to find, because we are all speaking different language. I mean, financial language, educational language, public administration language, we are using different words usually for the same things. You know, we need first to understand each other and then to be attractive to the clients, because we can confuse the auditorium when we are talking with some language, and then to adjust our language to clients to understand what we are offering.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
great. So let's talk about impact. So it has been widely discussed the importance to have a standardized set of metrics to measure impact. Could you please share with us how are you measuring the impact of your bonds, Ilya, and then Anna, maybe you can also share how you are measuring the impact of the program in general?
So, we do measure both based on the requirements which we have as part of the bond, as well as a part of the social impact study, which we typically do every year or every 2 years. So very simple indicators really that we report on. Well, first of all is obviously the number of women SME, micro or small business borrowers. Also, because the part of the bond is actually dedicated to the climate-related loans, so anything which is energy efficient or helping them to actually optimize, whether it's an agriculture business or regular business, to make it more green, so to say. So number of climate-related loans. We also specifically measure number of women MSMEs borrowers in rural areas. So how has this grown as part of that bond, as well as a portfolio? Now that's very normal as well. Then what we do as part of the the same bond reporting is the NPL. So typically, and we have found this out, that the women are better payers than men, and that I don't think that's a secret in the microfinance, that due to multiple reasons, right? However, we still look at that. If they're taking a larger exposure, which is because the minimum amount of the loan we provide under that facility is 10,000 laris. So since they're taking larger exposures, are they able to repay? And if we compare that, actually, yes. I mean, the data shows it's very good repayment rates there, despite the fact that that loan is larger than what we typically do on the low end of the microfinance. Now, in terms of the social impact study, which we do yearly or every 2 years, there are also qualitative interviews with the women clients and quantitative done as well to actually confirm the data. How well has the Crystal loan impacted them? Has their living conditions improved? Did they actually manage to innovate in their business, buy that loan, do something easier? Was it simpler for them? And things like this. So many parameters as part of the social impact study, which we typically, and that's basically the way.
Amazing. Well, no, thank you. Thank you for that. Anna?
Well, I think it's pretty much similar, like Ilya explained, that usually those are some statistical actually metrics regarding the number, regarding the share in overall portfolio, regarding the, let's say, by business activity, some filters regarding the regional dispersion, regarding the penetration in the market. So pretty much the same for all businesses as well for women in business. What we are looking additionally is to, let's say, realize what are the needs and how the needs of our clients, women in business, are changing from time to time, and how their income from the business is growing. Since we have a long history in information system, we can measure how their income is growing from one credit cycle to another credit cycle. Usually loans last like 18 months. So in 18 months, we can see the influence of financing and business development empowerment of the women in business. From the other side, we are measuring new business establishments, startups within the women in business. So that is important. And we are measuring youth in business, up to 35 years old businesses within the company. What is very important, what is coming on the agenda to be measured is successions within the businesses. So let's say that businesses in Montenegro, some of them are like between 35 years old businesses, and here is the time for succession of the founder with usually family members. It could be son, it could be daughter, and how they are running and keeping to run the business as the successors. So some of them are very important for us, not only to measure credit risk, but to see what novelties will come with new generations, since there is a gap in not only in a lifestyle actually of new generations compared to the previous ones, to see what are their needs, because I'm expecting new needs and new styles of running those businesses. So that is something that we started to measure additionally to traditional measurement of let's say numbers, medias, and so on. So it's something that is on the agenda, is coming. So it's very connected with the digital tools and digital expectations of our clients. Let's say that older clients are expecting digital solutions as tools for efficiency, and new generations expecting digital as a lifestyle. And it's completely different approach in that case, and asking for different competencies of our employees in that sense.
Yeah, well, no, congratulations. And
I'm always looking the company as a part of the ecosystem, not we are Altamodus and they are clients. We are all together. So we need to be adjusted to each other. It's not possible to, you can separate, but honestly, there is no difference between, you need to be a part of the market, and then you are in the market. You're not looking on a market, you're a part of the market. So you need to be a part of that with your employees, with your equipment, with your measurement system, and so on, to be in line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, no, I mean, obviously, both of your organizations are not only intentional but transformative, and definitely you are leaders, not only yourself, but obviously all your teams and everything that you're doing. So, because one of the questions, and I suppose and I hope that we have in the audience others trying to pursue the same path, and so what would you recommend to them in terms of like where to start, what to expect, why this is important, like what will be the motivation that they should have when they face challenges doing that? Because as you have experienced, I suppose it's not always easy, right? Not because there is not a good reason to do it, but because there are other priorities, because there are sometimes like crises in the market, because many things happen. So to keep that intention, even if it is within a framework of sustainability. I've seen other institutions sometimes really suffering from keeping the pace. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you, your reflections, your thoughts, your recommendations to others in the audience. So Ilya, maybe starting with you, what would you say?
Thank you, Lisa. So I've been asked that question a couple of times. Is it sustainable, and is it profitable? And the answer is always yes. In fact, there is a very strong business case for financing women in the small business and microfinance, and that shows on, at least in Georgia, and I'm pretty sure in many other countries as well. We actually very recently, just a couple of weeks back, we had gender finance training, which is part of the program as well that we do with all our branch management. And all statistics show there is a very strong business case in terms of the profitability, returns, as well as NPL. So I do not think there's actually this dualistic kind of approach. Is it profitable or is it social? To me, no. Actually, it's both. It's both together. You know, there's a very good business case and a very good social impact involved as well.
Yeah.
So if you build upon that, as an institution, then the rest is just tactics to me, frankly. I mean, how you structure, how you work with a, you know, let's say an impact investor, impact lending agency that gives you a senior funding, which is targeted, or a DFI in the future, which is obviously a bit tougher because you need to comply with many extra requirements of the public bond and things like this. But that's already a question of technique and tactics rather than. That would be my advice.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, thank you. And Anna, do you have something else to share with us?
Well, my recommendation for companies which would like to start with some project is to let's say do some preparation research regarding the market and within the company. What is the situation? Is there a potential? Is there let's say willingness within the company? How generally employees looking on that question, and what are the main needs of the market of women in business? Based on that, I will suggest to create a let's say strategy, and based on strategy action plan, how to reach that strategy with very defined milestones, how to go on that. That's actually strategic management, which is focused on one part of the market, is one segment of the market, women in business. You need to have some preliminary data to define your goals. And what I mentioned at the beginning of panel, I think that all goals needs to be very realistic, you know, not something what I wish, but what I should do, what the company should do, not what wish to do, what is reliable. Yeah, that's my, let's say, suggestion for all who are thinking about that. I believe that there is everywhere market, but because generally in human society there is like half women, half men, and that's normal. So but entrepreneurship spirit maybe is not the same within the let's say men and women, and it's need to be measured to see what is the potential for the growth, and if there is no potential, how to indicate it, because somewhere, you know, in my opinion, there is no difference between men and women business. Entrepreneur is entrepreneur in the end, and where there is the entrepreneurial idea, you can see in the eyes of the entrepreneur, whether it's woman or man. So they will not stop, and nothing will stop entrepreneur to realize the idea. So they will find the path. It's best if you're MFI, financial institutions supporting entrepreneur to be you, that one who is financing his business. Then you are actually living your vision and mission.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you, Anna. Very comprehensive answer. Thanks. And maybe just to finish our conversation, although we can keep talking about this, maybe we just want to see if you have seen any other initiative in the industry that is relevant, that you think is important for all of us to have a look, and what you think that is important, or if there is anything else that you think the industry should be doing more or different to advance faster. Maybe Ilya, you want to start?
In terms of how do we move the whole initiative faster? I believe that's a question, right? So I think what typically helps, and at least, you know, in our experience, is obviously working on the awareness more, especially going out to the clients, not waiting for them to come to you and trying to, you know, explain to them what you can do, but actually going out there. So one of the very good initiatives which has been implemented by Crystal in partnership with a Dutch startup called Buzz. It's about actually buzzing into the villages, you know, with trainers and coaches, and building that awareness in the place, because typically they cannot come to Tbilisi or to the larger towns because they very often, have to run the business, they have to run their families, etc., etc. So going out there, which really helped with all the knowledge building and awareness building, not just about the program, but actually how do you, promote women in entrepreneurship? What is it that you need to start the business? How do you grow the business? Whether that's in terms of the knowledge about the marketing, accounting, financial literacy, and things like that. So something like that, I think being on the ground really helps to work with them. The rest, yes, obviously, social media channels and things like this, they also help. But because, there's very majority of the clientele is in the regions, I think that really helps. Another part, it's on the funding side probably. And I think DFIs have also to probably hit to the call to actually maybe subsidize part of that funding sometimes, because typically it doesn't come subsidized, at least in Georgian environment. So the companies, in that case, they can pass on those savings to the end client, and that would probably give it another boost. That's my point.
Yeah. Yeah. Key points, key ideas, absolutely. And actually, I mean, I guess like also your intervention just answered one of the questions that we have from the public around like how to build more awareness and what channels to use to reach out to more women. So yeah, again, yes, we are in a digital world, but we still see the need to be human in terms of like going there and training and like build that confidence to use financial services, which is something that sometimes we give for granted. And that is not the case, regardless of levels of education, regardless of anything else. Like many times, because women have been less exposed to financial services, they don't feel necessarily confident to use them or use them more. So definitely that's something. And I don't know, Anna, if you want to, I don't know, like share with us like one initiative that you know, or if you have an idea of what else or more we should be doing as an industry to advance quicker.
Well, I think that we are on a very good path, and all let's say policymakers are aware in which direction to go with this question and this topic, and just maybe from time to time to refresh and to see what our real clients' needs. Maybe sometimes we are in some more oriented to ourselves as an industry and what is for us good, not asking the clients what are their expectations. It should be, let's say, questioned from time to time, and to adjust, let's say, policy statements and all activities to, let's say, more frequent research of the needs of the clients and their expectations. Somehow to be in a better connection with the market and the women in business, what are their needs. Maybe it's let's say period of 3 or 5 years, too long period currently, for all changes and new generations and their needs. So I think maybe on a, let's say, 2-3 years maximum, some research within the clients and their needs. And then to adjust all policy statements to new findings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, no, thank you so much. Well, I think like we have reached the end of the panel. So I don't think that we have any other questions. I think like with your answers, we have been answering many of them. So maybe just if you want to share like a final statement with the spirit of sending the voice and motivating others to become as transformative as you are, please be my guest. And if you want to start quickly, sentences, and Ilya, and then we close. Thank you.
Okay, well, for all which never starts, and I believe that they already work with women, but without the awareness, be brave and try something new. It's in the end very satisfying for you and your companies. Let's try.
Thank you.
I think, when we talk about women empowerment, it's also very important that men understand why that's important. And typically, it's just a synergy in every single society that we meet, and every single society which is, let's say, prosperous. There's a equal, opportunities and equal financing, and that's what's most important, to us. That we want to make sure that this is possible in Georgia, and and every other country which aspires to be prosperous. So
yeah,
that's very simple.
Well, thank you very much, Anna and Ilya, and thank you
Thank you.
everyone for joining today. And hope that you keep enjoying all the sessions that are ready for today. So thank you, and have a very good rest of the day.